Hi friends, we are talking about the way that God loves us, how to recognize and experience God's love for us on a daily basis. And so today we're going to be talking about provision. How do we know that God loves us? Because He provides for us. And today we're going to go to Philippians 4:19, and it says, "And my God shall supply all your needs according to His riches in glory." You know, provision can look different for very many people. I remember there have been times in my life where provision has looked very different. At one point in time, provision is simply a meal on the table. At another point in time, provision can look like protection. Provision can look like abundance. There are very different ideas of provision. But the truth of the matter is we, as His children, have to get into a place where we can recognize His blessings, regardless of what they look like, where we can recognize His blessing no matter what we're going through throughout our lives, no matter what challenge we may be facing. You know, in Exodus 16, it talks about the Israelites and how they were stranded in the desert for 40 years. And a lot of that was because of their own disobedience. They could have been out of the desert in 13 days, but they decided to mumble and grumble and complain and go around in circles and give their leaders a headache and all this other extra stuff. And it says that at one point in time they were complaining to Moses. The people of Israel were complaining to Moses, telling him that they should have just left them in Egypt, where they would have been better off. And here God has actually rescued them from slavery, rescued them from the hand of Pharaoh, who was inflicting mass amounts of pain and oppression on them. And God delivers His people. And here they are telling Moses, after being delivered, you know what, you should have just left us there and we could have just died there and we would have been great. And how many times do we do that? You know, like God delivers us or rescues us from something, a situation, maybe a damaged relationship or some type of addiction or something like that. And because things aren't looking the way that we think they should, we're like, you know what, God, I don't even know what you're doing right now. You should have just left me where I was. I was fine there. You know, at least in that relationship, you know, I had a man or whatever the case may be. You know, now I'm lonely and depressed and all this extra stuff. And that's where the Israelites were. But God, in His love and compassion for people, did not, treat them how they should have been treated. You know, they were being trifling. He actually opened up heaven, opened up the skies, and literally this bread came from heaven and fed the Israelites. And so God literally fed them bread from heaven. And I just remember a time when I was struggling financially to the point where I had no food in my house, none whatsoever. And I had made some poor choices. I was a Christian following Jesus, but I made some poor choices. I did not plan out my life or plan out this particular time period properly. And so I had no food in my house. And all of a sudden, a friend of mine shows up at my door and she's like, God told me to go to the grocery store and get you some groceries. And so she did that, and she dropped off a truck, like her truck was full of groceries. And so despite the fact that I had made poor choices in my own life, financially or whatever, God still showed up and blessed me and took care of me and provided for me. And that is the God that we serve. And sometimes it's not going to be the way that we think it should be, you know. If I'm honest, in that moment, what I was praying for was for a better job, a better paying job, to be able to buy food. And so that didn't come. But had I missed out on acknowledging the blessing that God was sending my way, then I would have missed out on understanding that no matter what challenges we're facing, that God is still providing for us, that He is still taking care of us, that He is still giving and blessing His people. And so I just want to encourage you that no matter where you are today, that no matter what challenges that you're facing, whether it's financial, whether it's with your health, whether it's with your relationships, that God is still blessing and that He is still providing exactly what we need, and that it may just take a little bit more of us opening our eyes to see it, but it's there, and He's there, and He's loving us through that, through His provision.